Hello. The Divine Code reading for April 22nd, pages 639 and 640. We are in the chapter Theft Incurred by False Measurements and the prohibition of cheating or misinforming another person. Topic number 6. It is forbidden for a seller to cheat a buyer. Defined as a legal term in topic 10 below. So cheat is what exactly is it to cheat? But it's forbidden, whether it is in pricing beyond a maximum percent that the item of the worth of the item, such as telling the person that the item is worth $2 when it is only worth $1, or in the amount being sold. That is, if a seller tells the buyer that he is selling him a kilogram of merchandise and he's actually selling him less. Or regarding the measurement of land, that is, the seller says that the land being sold is a hectare in area, and it is actually less. One who cheats another in these ways is a thief, and it is prohibited as part of the no-hide prohibition of theft. So, if a person either misrepresents the call, we assume, within commerce, there's people that are experts in knowing the price of something. And there's people that know the amount. There has to be an established amount of something, and there has to be an established, there has to be a fair market value understood for something. We don't always expect, like if a person walks into a store, that person's not going to necessarily be an expert. They might be, but they're not necessarily an expert. It's assumed that the person who makes it their profession to be involved in the commerce is an expert, and that expert is expected to be honest about what he says. If he says that the can of peas should cost $1, that means that that's an honest price. He's representing it as an honest price. If he sells the can of peas for $2 and he says they're worth $2, but other places you can buy for $1, then the unsuspecting customer has been cheated. If he just puts $2 on the shelf, and he doesn't actually tell the customer that $2, it's kind of difficult in that place. But it will go into it more in detail as going into this. But if he tells the customer that it's worth $1, if he's worth $2, and the customer pays the $2 and then finds out later it's worth only $1, he's been cheated. Or even if he doesn't find out, he's been cheated. And likewise, if he says that there's 16 ounces of peas in the can, and there's actually only 12 ounces of peas in the can. And then the question of how much water can be added and how do you weigh the water and all that is based upon what's conventional for that market item, and that's usually regulated by the government or by industry standards. Those have to be met. The correct measurements and the correct pricing is expected. Otherwise, it's considered cheating. Cheating is part of the prohibition of theft. See Torah Koshan Mishpat, chapter 227, and commentaries there. It is therefore forbidden to Gentiles, Minhakina commandment 337, states that Gentiles are liable for a capital sin by cheating in transactions of monetary value, since it is part of the no-hide prohibition of theft, according to Rambam. Or it violates the no-hide commandment to set up a system of justice, according to Ramban. This is subject to the understanding of the measurement principle explained in the editor's note, and that was in the reading from 2 days ago. Note the beginning of this chapter. There are 3 parts to cheating, which have varying relevance. Okay, so cheating is considered a if a person is doing a out and out cheat, like he represents something in a dishonest manner, in a clearly dishonest manner, and that's why it mentions telling. If he tells the buyer that this is the correct price, or he tells the buyer that this is the correct measurement, and it turns out he's cheating the buyer, and we'll find out later on that it can also involve the seller. The other way around. If the person that is that's making that's like in charge of the transaction, if he is misrepresenting what's going on, and that's considered theft, that would be a full Torah prohibition. It'd be a capital sin for a non-Jew. And if it's done in a more slightly manner, then it might also be. It would still be under the government regulations, even though it may not be a full capital sin. If it's and that threshold is important, but the broader issue of cheating would also be important, and that falls under the area of government regulation. There are three parts of cheating, which have varying relevance to Gentiles. First, the seller knows that the item is overpriced, yet he deceives the buyer, which is forbidden to Gentiles. So he knows the can of peas should be sold for $1. That's a normal market value. You go to another store in the same, that on the other side of town, they're selling the can of peas for $1. He bought it for 80 cents. He's selling it for $2. And he figures, well, people are going to pay the money. He's cheating the customers. Both the seller and buyer are negligently mistaken about the value of the item. Here, too, it is considered theft and is forbidden to Gentiles. So he doesn't know. Let's say the owner of the store doesn't know. He just knows that last year the can of peas was selling for $2. And he never bothered to change the price. The market value of the peas changed over the course of a year. This last year was a famine. This year's a bumper crop. And the can of peas are no longer $2. Now they're $1. The owner of the store doesn't keep track of this stuff, and so he's just still selling it for $2. It's still considered theft. It would not be the same type of theft as if the owner of the store was actually aware that he was doing it. It's negligent theft on his part. And third, the buyer mistakenly overvalues the item and offers too high a price to the seller, who knows better but is quiet and accepts. Or vice versa, if the seller mistakenly overvalues the item and sets too low a price, and the buyer knowingly accepts. So the third item is where they're mistaken. The third item is more in the area of an honest mistake, and the person's actually cheating themselves. The second, okay, the first item is an outright cheat. It's an outright theft. The second one is negligence on the behalf of the person who is sort of in charge of the sale. If the shop owner negligently is overcharging. The third item is if the person that is in charge of the sale, the person that's kind of setting the price, winds up cheating himself. He's not cheating the other person, he's cheating himself. That's still considered cheating, but it's not. I mean, the person, there's no question the person's cheating himself. Then that's the third possibility, the third category. Here in the Torah law for Jews, there's an obligation between one Jew and another Jew to return the lost object, of returning a lost object. But this does not apply within the Torah law for transaction between Gentiles or between a Jew and a Gentile. So if it's a mistake, that would be considered under the category of returning lost items, which is in the Jewish law is an obligation. Within non-Jewish law, it's a logical, proper thing for society to do, is to fix these mistakes. And we could talk about government fixing the government or industry or just people doing it on their own can fix mistakes, but there's no Torah obligation in the case of a mistake. There would be a Torah obligation in the case of outright cheating. This applies as well to other types of businesses, such as the renter or contractor. When a contractor receives payment based on the work he does, or exchanging currency and the like. So it's not just in a marketplace where people are selling cans of peas, or they're selling real estate, or whatever they're selling, but also in other areas of business, such as contract. A person is taking wood and turning it into chairs. He's doing it as a contract. The person brings in something. He brings in a broken toaster. He asks the person to fix the broken toaster. There should be an honest price that the person is charging to fix the toaster. If he cheats and he knows he's cheating, if it takes him 20 minutes to fix the toaster and he says it takes 2 hours to fix the toaster, and he charges by the hour, then he would be cheating. If he says, I'll fix the toaster for $10, and it turns out either that's more than the price should be or it's less than the price should be, but he's being honest about it. If both people are being honest, then it's in the second or third category, which would probably need to be fixed, but it's not required. So this occurs in a variety of business transactions, not just the area of a market of a selling items. In any case in which there is unjust financial gain for either party, and either party misleads the other, this falls into the prohibition of cheating. Rambam Laws of Stealing 13:17, Shulchan Aruch Kosher Mishpat 227:35, topic 35, and the Shulchan Aruch Harav Laws of Cheating, topic 9. So of the three categories, the first one is a person actually overtly cheating. And the cheating can occur on either side. If the person is overtly cheating, the person goes to the store and he takes 2 pounds of raisins, puts it in a bag, and he tells the shop owner that he's buying 1 pound, and the shop owner pays he pays the shop owner for 1 pound, and the shop owner has been cheated by the buyer in this case. So anytime it's done on purpose, that would be a full area of theft and would be handled by the courts as full theft. If it's an honest mistake, that would be in the other categories, the other two categories. It is likewise prohibited for the seller of a house or other property to claim false value that is not in accordance with the real market value. Accordingly, there is an argument among the sages as to whether the prohibition of cheating exists in regard to real estate or real estate property. Minakina Commandment 337 says that for Gentiles, since the prohibition is part of the commandment of theft, they are surely liable for cheating in the sale of land. See footnote 1, which explains that this is not subject to capital punishment. Nevertheless, it is possible that only if one cheats in the measurement itself, it is not liable to capital punishment. But if one is cheating in the valuation of the property, it is possible that the Gentile would be liable just as any other monetary transaction. So the question with real estate is you're getting a chunk of land. If the person mistakenly says that there's 14 acres of land in the tract in the property, and there's only 12 acres of land, but the person can go and look at the land, they can see how much, they can see the area. Is that difference of measurement considered cheating? Now, if the person is promised 14 acres of land, and so the question is, if we start out by looking at the land and it's marked as 14 acres, but we're buying the specific piece of land that's in front of us, that might be an area where there's a possibility of saying, okay, the guy cheated by would that be considered a capital crime at that point, because the piece of land the guy's looking at is in front of him. However, if the person buys 14 acres of land, but it's not in front of him, and then the person goes out and measures it out, and he gives them 12 acres. That might be a different, so we have to distinguish between those two. I would assume, reading this. If the person has a bushel of apples in front of them, and the person says there's 20 apples in that bushel, turns out there's 18, but it's in front of them, is that a cheat in the it's what exactly is being considered the cheat of a full thief, a full cheat, and what is considered if he's buying it by the bushel and he's told there's 14 apples and there's only 12 apples in the bushel, or if he's told he's buying 14 apples and the guy hands him a bushel and there's only 12 apples in the bushel, that would be a different type of theft between the two scenarios. So that might be the area where the land, which is it's real estate, it's right there in front of you, where there might be a difference between whether or not it's considered full theft or if it's just simply considered misrepresentation of what is in front of us, which would not necessarily be a full theft. That would be a capital crime in a court. When multiple potential buyers are actively, it is likewise prohibited for the seller of a house or property to claim a false value that is not in accordance with the real market value. Although there is an argument among the sages as to whether when multiple potential buyers are actively bidding against each other, or if they're those who still in the bidding desire to bid above the market value in order to obtain the property or any other item at auction, this is permitted. So in real estate, in the United States, real estate transactions are tightly regulated, and if somebody puts a house up at a certain price, that's his asking price. Somebody else comes and bids on it. Everything is done by contracts. The real estate agents on both sides are filling out contracts. They're going back and forth. They're faxing it, or however they do it these days, and everything's written down. And if a person were to, let's say somebody had a friend who misleadingly put a contract in. They're trying to sell the house for $100,000. Someone comes back and offers $80,000, and the buyer is not happy, but he wants to bid up the price. So he has a friend put in a bid for $90,000. The friend's not planning to buy it. Just in order to entice the other person to increase their price up. Now, hopefully they'll get up to $95,000 or something to that effect. And if it's done misleadingly, that would be wrong. However, if it's done in an honest manner, now then questions come in. If the person offers to sell the house for 100,000, someone else offers to buy it for 100,000, they're accepting the price, and then someone else comes along and offers 110,000. That depends on the way that the market depends on the regulations, and at what point is it considered a contract, binding contract. Once it's considered a binding contract, can you come in and try to outbid the person? That depends on the individual local government and how they handle those transactions. But we cannot cheat by creating a mistaken, a false increase in the price. But if it's being done by honest buyers, that is permitted. Topic number 7. Also, I'm sorry, back in topic number 6. If those who are still in the bidding desire to bid above the market value, in order to obtain the property or any items at auction, this is permitted. But if someone bids up the price where he has no intent of buying, this is the general type of deception that is forbidden to Gentiles, since it is dishonest and a form of lying, and that will be discussed more in topics 24 and 27 later in this chapter. So yeah, it's if it's if the person has a friend who's dishonestly bidding the price in order to get the whole price up higher, that would be considered theft, or would be considered deception. Topic number 7. Just as it is forbidden for a merchant to cheat the buyer, and in doing so, he would be deemed a thief, it is likewise forbidden for the buyer to mislead the seller to give him the wrong price estimate on the product he is buying. See the Rambam Laws of Selling 12:1, Shulchan Aruch Kosher Mishpat 2:27, and Shulchan Aruch Harav Laws of Cheating, topic 1. Likewise, partners who divide. Okay, so it's not only the seller. Normally, the way that people, we're in a consumer society. We're not in a producer society. So the consumer is usually the person that doesn't know what's going on. You walk in, normal person walks into the store. The store, you have to assume that the store is reasonably honest about the prices, and therefore it's on the seller. In our society, a consumer society, it's usually on the seller. But if we're in a society or if we're in a position that the buyer knows what's going on, let's say the buyer is going to the farmers, and he's saying that this is the correct price for a dozen eggs, or for a bag of eggs, however the eggs are sold, and the farmer doesn't know. The farmer's on his farm. The milk run comes out to his farm and picks up the dairy products. The farmer doesn't know what the market value is, so he trusts the buyer to give him the honest price. In that case, it works either way. The buyer and the seller are both obligated to be honest with each other in what the proper price is for something. Likewise, partners who divide their property may not cheat each other in taking more than that which is due them. See Rambam Laws of Stealing 13:12 and Shulchan Aruch Kosher Mishpat 2:27. So just as the buyers and the sellers have to be honest with each other, people that are in business partnerships, two neighbors come together and they buy a truckload of items, and then they're going to divide it up amongst themselves. You know, they both went to the marketplace and they purchased the truckload of hay, bundle, you know, bushels of hay, and there's a little difference between the bushels of hay, or you know, somehow, you know, they both have to be honest with each other in how they divide up the what they purchased. In other similar business ventures, people have to be honest with each other in how they act in business partnerships. Topic number 8. Since cheating is business, in business transactions is theft. One who does cheat must return the object received unfairly, or compensate the difference in price, or invalidate the sale. So in our society, there needs to be some kind of mechanism. Now, one thing retail stores have done is a lot of the larger retail stores, and I assume smaller ones also, but the larger ones make a big issue out of telling people they do this, is that they do what's called guaranteed prices. And they say, okay, if a person finds the price, you buy the can of peas at the store for $1.20. If you find a can of peas at another store for $1, you go back to the first store with the receipt showing that the purchase was made, and you show that where the other store is selling it for $1, and the first store will reimburse the buyer the 20 cents. Or you find it on sale. Let's say the first store they're selling it for $1.20. The next week it goes on sale for 90 cents. The person goes back to the first store with the receipt, and the store says that they promise to reimburse them, so they reimburse them the 30 cents. And the downside is that the marketplace has so many varieties of items, it's almost impossible to find a comparative item at another store. Often, I mean, maybe cans of peas that are a name brand, but oftentimes, if it's television sets and all that, there's minute details, differences between the stores, so it's impossible to enforce this unless it goes on sale within the store. But it creates the sense of honesty with the stores. The stores are not going to cheat a person, or they don't want the people to feel they've been cheated. Now, oftentimes nobody pays attention to the prices at the other stores, or pays after a person buys something. They don't always check the flyers 2 weeks later to see if it went on sale. They might, but normally it creates this sense that there's honesty going on. The court system in every country is obligated to judge with laws against cheating. So if it turns out there needs to be a court system that supervises this. And if it turns out that someone's doing what's called price gouging, the store, there's a tornado, there's a hurricane coming. You can't really predict tornadoes. The hurricane is coming. They know it's going to come in a couple of days. And all of a sudden, the price of plywood skyrockets in the area, because the stores bought the plywood at the regular price, but they know they're going to get all this need that they're going to sell the plywood at a higher price. They're cheating the customers. The government has a regulation, has a requirement to come in and protect the customers at that point. And it's on the government to protect the customers in those kind of situations. See Ramban Ramban. See Ramban on Genesis 34:13. And establish laws of return for unjust gain. So the government would require the hardware stores to reimburse their customers if they're able to, or to somehow reimburse the community for price gouging in difficult situations. This includes laws that define if and when cheating invalidates a sale, and what percentage of a sale price above or below the true value of an item is the level of cheating by its legal definition that invalidates the sale, and the minimum amount of cheating that necessitates returning the extra money that was gained by cheating. So the government, it might be that the hardware store is trying to bring in plywood. They're trying to be good community neighbors, and they're bringing in plywood, and they're paying a premium price for the truckers to bring in the plywood because they're trying to be nice to the neighborhood. So now the value of there's an honest cost involved in the value of the plywood that is above the normal cost. There's a surcharge involved because of the emergency situation, and maybe they have to pay their employees more money because the employees don't want to be in the store when there's a hurricane coming. So there's the government has to step in this case and determine what an honest price is and what's a reasonable amount that the hardware store can charge more. And the government needs to be in a place where it can make where it can sort through and see where the honesty is and where at what stage is it considered dishonest game. Thank you.